Now, before we dive into learning the song, let's first of all look at the key we are in. We're in the key of G major. The key of G major has G as the 1, has A as the 2, B as the 3, C as the 4, D as the 5, E as the 6, F sharp as the 7, and G back to the 1. So that's the key of G major, right? Now, in order to learn the song appreciably well, we're going to divide the song into 4 lines. The song starts on the 1 chord, G major. Yeah. See? So it starts on the G major, the 1 chord. However, there was a pattern that took us to the 1 chord, and this is it. See? So what chord is this? This is the 1 over 5. That is the G major over D. Now this works because the 5 chord serves, or it is the dominant, and whenever we play that dominant, it usually wants to resolve to the 1 chord. So the dominant usually wants to resolve to the 1 chord. So the 5 is the dominant in every key, and so that is the concept being applied here. Playing that dominant, it causes some kind of tension that now resolves to the 1 chord. See? Right hand. See? What was that? So from the 1 chord, the next chord we should be going to is the 5 chord, D major, the D major. Check it out. From the 1 to the 5, which is D. But in this case, 2 chords were used as patterns to take us to that 5 chord. The first one is born from the concept of secondary dominant. So what does secondary dominant mean? Remember that the chord we're going to is the 5 chord, which is D major. To get the secondary dominant, all you need to do is count 5 half steps backward. So if I count 5 half steps backward, I get the secondary dominant. So this is our D. Let's count it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which is A. So that means when I come to A and play a dominant chord, you can see it will resolve to D. Are you seeing it? Popularly used in hymnals. And remember that A is our 2. Remember, A is our 2, and D is the 5. So it's like a 2-5 pattern, right? The 2-5 dominant pattern, right? But in this hymn, the bass or the root notes for this chord was not used as the bass note or the lowest note. Another note was used. So remember, this is the chord, A dominant 7. So instead of this, which is the root used as the bass, this was used. So instead of playing it like this, they did like this. See? So it's, remember that E is our 6 in the key of G. Remember, this is G, this is E, 6. So it's like a 2 dominant chord over 6 bass using the number system. Or you can say the A dominant chord over E. A dominant chord over E. So 2 ways of playing this chord. Either you use the root as the lowest note, or you use the 6 as the 6 in relation to the key as the lowest note, right? The 6 is the lowest note in this case. So in this song, this was what was used, right? So after using this, the next chord, before hitting that 5 chord, they first of all suspended it. So they first of all suspended the chord. So remember, this is the chord, D major triad. But first, they suspended it. So when we play that D major triad and that major third, we move it to the very next note, half step forward, you get the sus4 chord. So now you're going to be playing the root, the 4th and the 5th in relation to D. So when a root fourth and fifth is played, you have the sus4 chord. And when we play this sus4 chord, it would want to resolve to that major triad. So you have something like this. See? So let's play it now. So before hitting the 1, we played the 7, which is F sharp. See? Now, from the 1 chord, normally we should, from the 1, we should go to the 4. However, when we play that 1 chord, due to the fact that the 1 chord, occupied a lot of space, it was split into 2. So we play the 1 chord, the first part, and then play the 6th chord. See? You see, the 6th chord can be used as a substitute for the 1 chord. The 6th chord, which is in this case E minor, can be used as a substitute for the 1 chord. And why? Because they are related. The 6th chord is the relative minor of the 1 chord. So we can use both. We can substitute both of them, right? So see, from the 1 to the 6. So in my left hand, I hit this 5 first. That is that D, E, D, E. Then next we should be going to the 4, which is the C. We're going to the C, right? The C major. However, we use this as a pass into that 4 chord. So this is the 1 over 3, the 1 chord G over 3 B. B's are 3, so it's like a 1 over 3, a slash chord. Remember, this is a slash chord, right? 1 over 3, G major over B. And then we play the 3 chord, which is the B minor. The 3 chord. The B minor is the 3 chord. See? Before we go to the 4. So that's the pattern that was used to take us to the 4. We go on. Now from that 4 chord, we should be going to the 1 over 5, another slash chord. Another slash chord, 1 over 5, which is the G over D. The 1 over 5 chord is one of the most commonly used chords in hymnals. So if you stick to this channel, for every breakdown we do, for every hymn, we usually or often should mention the 1 over 5 chord. Very, very important chord, right? So when we play the 4 chord, the next one is the 1 over 5. This is the G over D. However, before hitting that 1 over 5, we use this. That is from the 2, A minor. See, A minor. Then we play the 5 chord. This is the 5 chord. Now this is supposed to be a dominant 7 chord. See? But instead of playing the dominant 7 chord as a block chord, we usually want to hear this inner movement. See? Commonly used, right? So we play this. So instead of just this, we do this. Now you see this movement, 2, 1 over 5, and then the 5 back to 1. This progression is also very popular in hymns, right? From the 2 to the 1 over 5 to the 5 and to the 1. Popular progression in hymnals. So this is the first line. Let us play the first line again so that we can appreciate all that we have learned. See? So this is the end of the first line. Now the second line is the same thing with the first. Wow. So we don't have to learn another thing for the second line. It's just the same thing with the first. So we'll do it again. Right? So that's it. First and second line. Now we move to the third line. The third line. Now this third line for me is the most beautiful part of this hymn. This third line actually kicks off on the one chord again, right? Check it out. You see? We're starting on the one chord. But there was some walk up that was done on the one chord. And this is it. So this walk up ends in us playing the 1/3, G over B, see? So this is it. Back to the 1, you see, back to that root there. So we do this. All this was done on that one chord, see? Then we move to the 4, that's the C major, right? But before playing that 4 chord, there was an inner movement that was done. Check it out. Sorry. You see? Right? So the C major. From the C major, we go to the 5 chord, to the 5 chord. Right? We go to the 5 chord. The 5 chord, which is the D major. But, just like we did in the first line, that D major was first of all suspended. So we played a sus4 chord before going to the D major triad, like we did in the first line. Check it out. So this is the sus4 chord, like we did in the first line. This is the sus4 chord. Remember, your root 4th, 5th. See? Then we play the 5 and then to the 1. See? The 5 chord, which is a D major. So because of the melody here, it becomes like a D dominant 7. See? So but there was something we missed. Another inner movement. See? See? This movement is now taking us to that sus chord. See? That's it. Woo! So beautiful. Now, this now continues to the 2. So 2, 1 to the 5. So to go to that 2 chord, we use this. So what is this? This is another secondary dominant. Another secondary dominant. Right? That was applied to take us to that 2 chord, which is the A minor. So how do we get a secondary dominant again? From the A, which is the chord we're going to, just play 5 half steps backward. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So on E, which is our 6, we play the dominant chord. See? See? So it takes us to the 2 chord, which is the A minor. This is another secondary dominant. The first one we learned was the 2-5. Now is the 6-2. 6-2, right? This is the 5/7. 5/7 because I'm playing the D, then I'm using the 7, which is F sharp as the bass. See? So now the next, from here we're going to the 5, but we use that chord that we learned in the first line, right, which is that 2 dominant chord, right, the A dominant chord with the 6 bass. And just like we did in the first line, first of all we'll suspend it. That's sus4 that will take us to the major track. So the same thing we did in the first line, we're doing it again. So we have so when we suspended it, due to the fact that there was some space, I was bouncing that left hand octave. What am I trying to achieve? I'm trying to achieve that tension, to build that tension. You see? So the tension is kind of building. Then when we come to the 4th line, it is then resolved. This tension, high and low, these are some of the things that make hymnals or hymn rendition interesting, right? So let's play the 3rd line again. Everything that we have learned, let's play it again now. So, the end of the 3rd line. Now for the 4th line, the melody of the 4th line is the same with the 1st and 2nd. So the same melody. And therefore, the chords or the progression we learned in the 1st line can also apply for the 4th line. Yes, it can also apply. However, for this 4th line, they did some reharmonization. They changed some aspects of the progression and made it different from the 1st. So let's look at what they did in the 4th line. Now, the 4th line, instead of this, the 1st line, we use this to take us to the 1 chord. That dominant, right? But in this 4th line, this was what was used. So instead of the octave, we now played the 7th of D. We played the 5th of D also. So we played this. So this is now like the D dominant 7 without the 3rd, without the 3rd. So this. So addition of these 2 notes tends to increase the tension, right? It's more tense than when we just play the octave. So this one increases the tension and then needs resolution. So right hand, I'm still playing the 1 chord before it now goes to the 1, which is G. Now from the 1 chord, in the 1st line, we went to the 5. But here, we didn't go to the 5. We went to the 4. See? To the 4 chord. See? C major. So I'm playing like a C major 6 because of the melody. See? So, something else they did. Now, here, to go to that 4 chord, which is the C major, the 6 E minor was used as a passing to that 4 chord. So that sixth chord used as the passing to the 4 is also popularly used, in hymnals. But for the left hand, there was a walk down, so I did this. See? Now we move on. What was that? This is another secondary dominant passing. Another one. The third one we are seeing in this hymn. So this time, we are going to the sixth chord, which is the E minor. The E minor. So to get a secondary dominant, what do? We count 5 half steps backward. So from E, 5 half steps, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we come to B, which is our 3. B is our 3, remember, in the key of G. So on that 3, we play the dominant chord. Dominant chord, see it? So this is the third secondary dominant. The first one was 2 to 5. Second one was what? 6 to 2. Now the third one is what? 3 to 6. 3 to 6. That is the 3, which is the B dominant 7, to E minor, which is the 6. Then from here, we continue with what we learned in the first line. So we just continue. So you can see that 1 over 3 to the 3 minor, which is B minor. See? So all this part we've learnt it before, right? 1 over 3 to the 4, C major, then to the 2, 1 over 5, that popular progression I told you about, 2, 1 over 5, then the 5, and then to the 1. See? Don't forget that inner movement. Don't forget it. So that's the fourth line. Let's play the fourth line again. So we have. So notice I was bouncing that just to increase the tension. Let's do it again. So now, I haven't learned the fourth line. We've learned everything. Let's put everything together from the first to the fourth line. Let's go.